I dated Jake for 2 years. It wasn't a fairy tale romance, but it was enough to make me believe I was truly loved. He made me laugh, brought me flowers on random Wednesdays for no reason, told my mom I'm the luckiest man alive. I thought I was safe with him. Until last Friday night. We went to a fancy restaurant downtown, the kind that doesn't put prices on the menu. Jake had invited me to join him and a few of his coworkers. I spent hours getting ready. Hair, makeup, a brand new dress. Halfway through dinner, he stood up, looked me straight in the eye, and coldly said, "You're too much. We're done." No warning, no explanation. He grabbed his coat, turned around, and walked out, joking with his buddies on the way. Left me there, alone, with a $298 bill, 2 half-finished cocktails, and a shame so heavy I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. 48 hours later, I found out he'd been cheating, not with one, but with 3 other women. I used to think no one was perfect, but Jake came pretty damn close. After that awful dinner, I sat alone on my living room floor, trying to rewind every moment in my head. What did I miss? Jake worked in media, creative, incredibly charming, and had that light, bad boy edge that made you curious. He was genuinely smart, had a killer sense of humor, and just the right amount of cocky. The kind of guy who knew he was attractive and wasn't shy about using it. We first met on a dating app, chatted for a few days, then moved to phone calls. After just 2 dates, I remember thinking, this might actually be real. I dated a few guys before, but none of them had pulled me in the way Jake did. He knew how to make me laugh, knew exactly what to say to make my heart skip, but never cheesy enough to raise red flags. He wasn't the type to text nonstop, but always showed up at the right time. Stuff like, "What are you up to?" I randomly started missing that smiley face of yours. A message like that at 3 p.m. could completely erase the stress of a week's worth of late shipments. We never made things official on social media, and honestly, I didn't think much of it. I once brought up the idea of posting a couple photo, and Jake just smiled and said, "I'm not into putting my private life out there. With you, I want to keep things peaceful. No need to show it off." Sounded reasonable enough. And really, why doubt him when every moment with him felt so real? He never introduced me to his friends. When I asked about it, he said, "You're special. I've only ever brought casual dates around my friends. Nothing serious. But you're different." I blushed hearing that. It felt like being specially excluded in the best way possible. So I built this version of Jake in my head, deep, principled, and loving me in his own unique way. I even told my best friend once, "Jake's not like the guys I dated before. He's serious. He just wants to protect us from all that social media pressure." My friend was a little suspicious, but I brushed it off right away. I don't even know when it started. This slow acceptance that love didn't need to be visible. No couple photos, no hanging out with his friends, no being tagged in his stories, and I called it privacy. The truth is, I basically cleared the path for Jake to hide me from the world. One time I asked, "Do your friends know about me?" He said, "Of course they do. I just don't say much. I don't like sharing the things that matter most to me." The way he said sweet things while still keeping that emotional distance, it made me think I was some beautiful secret. But turns out, I was just part of the cover-up. And I called it mature love. It's not that I was stupid, I just really wanted to believe that this time, I'd found the right person. I used to think Jake not posting me on social media or bringing me around his friends was just his way of showing love discreetly. But slowly, I started noticing this subtle kind of control from him. It never came with yelling or threats. It came wrapped in tiny, seemingly harmless comments. The first time was when I wore this floral dress I absolutely loved. I'd worn it to my best friend's birthday once and got told I looked classically feminine. That day, I stepped out of the bedroom and Jake glanced at me, then said, "That dress is a little mature, huh?" Not mean, just casual, like a soft suggestion. I forced a smile and changed. Then came the hair. Mine was long down to my back with soft waves. It was my comfort zone, made me feel like me. One afternoon, while I was washing my hair, he stood outside the bathroom door and said, "Your hair looks fine, but why not switch it up? Go shorter. It'd look edgier." I hadn't planned on cutting it, but a few days later, I booked a salon appointment anyway. He never made me do anything. He just planted tiny seeds of doubt and watched me change on my own. When I opened up about how I felt, about the uncertainty, the fear of being left behind, he'd rub my back and say, "Why do you overthink so much? Guys like us don't stress about that stuff." It sounded like comfort, but every time he said it, I just felt Annoying, like my feelings were something to fix, not something worth hearing. I didn't realize I'd started choosing dresses based on his taste. Wore lighter makeup because he once said, "I like the natural look better." Stopped talking about my bad days because he'd go, "Everyone's stressed, babe, you gotta be more positive." Little by little, I became a more pleasant version of myself. But I wasn't me anymore. The scariest part was, I felt grateful. Every time he said, "You're so sweet today," I silently celebrated, like I'd done something right. When he held my hand in public, I felt proud, like I'd just passed some secret round of testing. I treated every small gesture from him like a reward, and assumed I had to earn it by trying harder. Jake never had to say I wasn't good enough. He didn't need to. His soft-spoken suggestions were enough to make me question myself. And when a woman starts doubting herself every single day, she slowly chips away at who she is, until there's nothing left but a version of her that's easy to accept. A shadow that smiles at the right time, sits quietly, and constantly wonders if she's still not enough. I used to think that if I were gentle enough, understanding enough, thoughtful enough, Jake would finally see me as someone to be proud of, and it felt like that moment had finally arrived. After 2 years of dating, he texted me one Thursday afternoon. "Wanna grab dinner Saturday with me and a few people from the team?" I must have read that message at least a dozen times. My eyes welled up. He had never invited me to meet his friends or coworkers before, so that invite felt like a sign. I was finally being let into his circle. I spent all of Friday hunting for the perfect dress. Not too flashy, but elegant. Just classy enough while still feeling like me. I settled on a deep olive green silk dress. The color Jake once said made my eyes pop. On Saturday afternoon, I washed my hair, blow-dried it carefully, and did my makeup exactly the way he liked it, soft and natural. I even changed my nail polish because he once said, "Nude tones look calmer." I showed up 10 minutes early. Jake was already there with 3 people, 2 guys and 1 woman, who all seemed like coworkers. As I walked up, my heart was pounding like it was about to break through my chest. But instead of smiling or greeting me, Jake just glanced over, gave a quick nod, and said, "Oh, you're here." No hand-holding, no warm eye contact, just a chair pulled out in the most half-hearted way. I sat down and tried to ease into the conversation. They were talking about some ad campaign I wasn't too familiar with, but I still made an effort to chime in, softly, politely, without interrupting. Every time I spoke, Jake would cut me off or rephrase what I said. "That's not quite it. What she meant was..." Or worse, "She's not in the industry, so she doesn't really know how this stuff works." I forced a smile and kept sipping my water just to avoid talking. But inside, small waves of anxiety started to rise. I felt like an outsider at the one dinner I had waited so long for. When one of the women asked how long we'd been seeing each other, Jake just shrugged and said, "A while now, just someone I've been seeing." I froze. Not my girlfriend. Not Emma. Just someone. I looked at him, searching his face for something, anything, that might tell me he was joking. But no. Jake was smiling, clinking glasses with his coworkers like I wasn't even there. I didn't know if I was imagining it, or if they really were looking at me with a mix of pity and subtle judgment. No one asked me another question after that. I lowered my head, clenched the napkin in my hands. Finally, I spoke, my voice low, trying hard to stay calm. "Jake, what are you doing?" He turned to me, looked straight at me, and like he'd been waiting for that question, stood up, gave a dry little smile, and said, clear and sharp, "This isn't working. You're too intense. I'm done." The whole table went silent. I thought maybe I'd misheard him. But Jake had already turned around, grabbed his coat, and walked off like he'd just wrapped up a normal to-do. No glance back. No apology. Not even a flicker of hesitation. Just like that, he left me sitting there, at a table with 3 strangers and a shame so big I couldn't even put it into words. I sat frozen in that restaurant for another 10 minutes after he left, completely unable to process what had just happened. The humiliation hadn't even had time to settle before confusion swallowed me whole. When the waiter brought the check, I didn't even look at the total. I swiped my card like a robot, then quietly walked out of that place. Jake's last words still looping in my head. "You're too intense. I'm done." I had no idea what I'd done that was too much. All I knew for sure was this. Jake had disappeared from my life, both literally and completely. I got home, kicked my shoes off at the door, didn't bother turning on the lights, didn't take off my dress. I just wanted to lie on the floor and stop thinking. But muscle memory made me pick up my phone. And the second the screen lit up, everything I'd been holding in just shattered. Jake had posted a story, a photo from the restaurant, wine glass, laughter in the background, and the caption, "Boys' night out, freedom." Freedom? Freedom from what? From me? Was I the prison? The leash? I thought I'd hit my limit for shock that night. But nope, the worst part hadn't even arrived yet. Not even a minute later, I got a text from Ellie, my best friend. Isn't this guy your boyfriend?" Attached was a screenshot from another Instagram account. In the photo, Jake was leaning in, smiling next to a brunette girl snapping a mirror selfie. They were both in pajamas. Cozy. Familiar. Way too familiar. Her caption? "He's mine." I stared at the screen wide-eyed, then started scrolling. This girl had a lot of photos with Jake. Some were from last week, some from last month. One even had the caption, "Miss you already, babe." Jake had heart reacted to every single one. I thought I was losing my mind. My brain couldn't keep up with how fast all this was hitting me. How could someone who sat across from me 2 hours ago, who broke up with me like I was some burden in his life, now be snuggled up in someone else's story like I never existed? I didn't cry. I couldn't even breathe. My whole body felt like someone had poured boiling water down my back. I clicked into her profile and kept scrolling. She didn't hide a thing. Pictures from their dates, photos of them hugging, full-on lovey-dovey captions. And in the comments, someone had tagged her and said, "Be careful. I've seen that guy with someone else before." I kept rereading that comment, zoomed in on Jake's face in the photo. Same smile, same eyes. Nothing about this man was ever real. And the worst part, it wasn't being dumped in front of strangers. It wasn't getting stuck with a $300 bill. It was realizing I wasn't the only one he'd hidden. And maybe I'd never been the only one, period. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jake with that brunette girl, and a million questions without answers played on repeat. I'm not the kind of woman who lets stuff like this slide. Not this time. I needed to know exactly how badly I'd been played. The next morning I messaged her. It was simple. "Hey, I'm Emma. I broke up with Jake yesterday. I saw your photos with him, and I think we should talk." I expected to get blocked. But less than 5 minutes later, she replied. Her name was Rachel. At first, her tone was pretty guarded, understandably. I figured she still thought I was just the ex who couldn't let go. But after we exchanged a few screenshots, Rachel started to get it. She and Jake had been seeing each other for almost 8 months. He told her I was an ex who still followed him after the breakup, and that I'd occasionally send weird messages just to get attention. Rachel had seen pictures of me in his phone before, but Jake brushed it off as old stuff. The past. Nothing to worry about. I felt sick reading that. But I wasn't done. I went back to one of Jake's Instagram posts from a few weeks ago, the one where he checked in at a beach resort and captioned it vaguely. "Work trip, finally." I remembered that week. He told me he'd be busy with meetings, not really able to text. In the comments, a woman had replied, "Have fun, babe." I clicked on her profile. Her profile picture showed a tan-skinned girl with curly hair and the kind of smile that lit up the frame. I sent her a message. This time, it took a few hours to get a reply. But when she finally messaged back, I knew instantly Jake was in trouble. Her name was Miranda. And just as I suspected, Jake had gone on that work trip with her, not on the same team, the same bed. Miranda told me they met at a media conference and started getting to know each other afterward. She did know about Rachel, but Jake told her Rachel was just a former coworker who keeps posting pics pretending to be his ex to stir up drama. Miranda had no idea I even existed. None. I was a complete ghost in her world. All three of us, me, Rachel, Miranda, we all believed we were the special one. But in reality, we were just 3 side branches of the same tangled lie. And the story wasn't over yet. That night, I posted one single story on Instagram, a photo of the dress I wore the night Jake left me at the restaurant. The caption read, "Some people aren't worth missing, just worth exposing." And I tagged Jake. Not long after, I got a message from a random account. "Are you Jake's girlfriend?" I replied, "I was. You?" The next message stopped me cold. "Same, or at least I thought so. I saw your tag and messaged you." Her name was Lily. She was the one who reached out to me. She said they'd been seeing each other for about 2 months, met on a dating app, gone out a few times, had photos together. She told me she once asked Jake about other girls, and he said, "Don't believe the online drama. I'm very clear when it comes to relationships." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In less than 24 hours, I found out Jake hadn't just betrayed me. He'd lied to at least 3 other women, and the most horrifying part? None of us knew about each other. Each of us thought we were the only one. Turns out, he'd been running 4 different shows at once, and playing the lead role in every one. After talking to Rachel, Miranda, and Lily, one thing became clear. We were all from different walks of life. Smart. Self-respecting. And yet, we all fell for the same man's trap. None of us had anything to be ashamed of. The only one who should feel shame was Jake. I took the initiative to create a group chat with Rachel and Miranda first. Lily was still pretty new to Jake's little circus, so I wanted to give her space to process everything. At first, the group was tense. Everyone was a little defensive. At one point, Rachel even asked me, "So, were you the official girlfriend?" Miranda stayed silent for a long time after the first message. But eventually, the silence gave way to receipts. And message by message, we started piecing together the full picture. Of a professional-level, double-life actor. We began sharing what we had. Rachel sent a voice memo of Jake telling her, "I've never loved anyone the way I love you." Miranda dropped a photo of the 2 of them hugging at the resort during his so-called work trip. I posted the text where he called me too much and said, "This is over. 3 puzzle pieces, 1 perfectly crafted lie." After a while, we all basically said the same thing, almost in unison. "He is not getting away with this." Miranda was the first to say it. "Why don't we expose him publicly?" I asked, "You mean, like posting on social media?" She nodded. "Exactly. But not just one of us. All of us. At the same time." And just like that, the plan started coming together. Each of us would write a post, sharing our experience with Jake. It didn't need to be long. It didn't need to be angry. Just the truth. And we'd all post at the exact same time. Then Rachel took it one step further. She dropped a screenshot in the group. Jake had once asked her to temporarily invest $5,000 in a startup project, an app he claimed would connect professionals in the media industry. She transferred the money. But a few weeks later, when she followed up, Jake told her it was stuck in legal paperwork. That's when Miranda chimed in with her own screenshot. Jake had told her that the exact same project was already finished, just waiting for launch. 2 stories. Same guy, totally contradicting each other. As for me, I had a photo Jake sent me, complaining about a weather allergy, said he'd broken out in rashes. It was his excuse for not seeing me for a whole week. Miranda? She had the exact same photo. From that same week while Jake was still spending the night at her place. Rachel let out a dry laugh. He was sleeping at my place that week too. What kind of allergy lets you romance 3 women at once? We picked Sunday as our strike day. The perfect time, 8 p.m., when people are scrolling, winding down their weekend. Me, Rachel, and Miranda, each of us picked a different photo with Jake. One romantic, one on a date. One candid from behind. And the caption? Identical, word for word. "You were never just mine, but now the world knows you were never a man." We didn't need to scream that he was trash, didn't need to drag him name by name. The truth was loud enough on its own. And 3 women posting in sync, each one fooled by the same man, was the cleanest punch right through the polished image Jake had so carefully built. The 3 posts dropped almost simultaneously that Sunday night, and it took less than an hour for everything to blow up. Things escalated way faster than we expected. One of my friends texted, "This is trending." Another tagged me in a roundup post. Someone had compiled all 3 identical captions from 3 different women, each one with a photo of Jake. By Monday morning, things were way out of Jake's control. An industry account from Jake's workplace reposted Miranda's story with the comment, "If you've worked with Jake, you might want to take a look at this." A former colleague of his, someone who used to comment glowing things about him, suddenly tagged Jake's boss directly under a post, "Please confirm whether this impacts the company's image." I didn't even have to dig any deeper, because an hour later, Jake called me. I didn't pick up. He called again, 3 times in a row. On the 4th call, I finally answered, put him on speaker, and said nothing. At first, his voice was calm, almost gentle. "What are you doing? Can we talk?" I stayed silent. He kept going, voice tightening. "Those posts, they're affecting my job. Don't you think this is going a little too far?" Still nothing from me. Then the switch flipped. His tone turned sharp, threatening. I could sue. This stuff could count as defamation. And then, just as fast, he flipped again. "But I don't want to do that. I'm overwhelmed, okay? You know I still care about you, don't you?" I let him talk, let him cycle through every version of his voice, pleading, threatening, fake kind, blaming me. And when he finally stopped, probably expecting me to cry or apologize, I gave him just one sentence. You dumped me in public. Now you're just facing a bigger crowd. Then I hung up. No shaking, no guilt. Nothing left to mourn. After Jake's final call ended, I set my phone down and looked around my apartment. Everything still looked exactly the same as it did when I believed I was in a happy relationship. The couple photos still stuck to the fridge. The birthday gift he gave me sat on my nightstand. That custom mug with our picture in Paris was still next to the sink. And I realized it was time to clean house, not just my space, but everything he'd left behind inside me. I gathered up every photo of us, old letters, those cheap little gifts that once made me tear up for all the wrong reasons. I shoved them into a big trash bag, zipped it closed, and carried it downstairs. No hesitation. No second thoughts. With every step, it felt like the dust that had been sitting on my chest for months was finally being swept clean. I blocked Jake's number, unfollowed every account connected to him, deleted every photo with his face from my phone. Each time I erased something, I felt a little lighter. Not because I hated him, but because I no longer had to carry the image of a man I'd never really known. 2 weeks later, I got a message from Lily, the third girl. It was short, but it nearly brought me to tears. You helped me get away from someone like that. Thank you. I didn't reply right away. I stared at that message for a long time, and for the first time after everything, I felt at peace. I wasn't angry at Jake anymore. I didn't want revenge. I didn't need to prove anything. I just felt grateful. Grateful that the truth finally came out, and that I escaped a trap I once mistook for love. Jake thought I was replaceable, but in the end, I was the one who made him scrub his digital footprint, change his name on social media, avoid eye contact walking down the street. And that was enough for me to smile, to move forward, with a heart that no longer carried hate. He left me in front of strangers after 2 years of dating. He thought he'd broken me, thought I'd cry, beg, or disappear out of shame, but the truth is, the only thing he really did was accidentally lead me to 2 incredible women. Women he also lied to. Women who, like me, once believed in a love that never existed. We didn't just expose a cheater. We reminded each other who we are. We remembered that softness doesn't mean weakness, that a woman's trust is something precious, and once it's gone, there's no getting it back. He thought he broke me, but the only thing that shattered was the mask he wore for 2 years. Now he's alone. And me? I'm finally free.